All right, Math 1, Unit 2A, Section 2, Translations with Points, Notes. So we're looking at kind of doing the backwards version of what we did in Section 1. Section 1, we were given a rule, like saying let go right 2, down 3. And this time we're going to have to make up the rule. We're going to have to find what the rule is. On all of these, really you only need 1 point. So I'm just going to look at the first point of each of these, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to decide how could I get from m, or the first, whatever the first point is, to m prime. So I want something along the lines of x plus something and then y plus something, or it could be minus, right? Because I have m, and that's -3, -2, and something happens to it, and then it turns out to be m prime, which is 2, 0. So in my head, I look at the x's. How could I turn -3 into 2? Well, I would add 5, right? And then I look at how could I turn -2 into 0? Well, I would add 2. Right? So my answer is going to be, well, x plus 5 means, right, 5, and then y plus 2 means up 2. And this is going to be our answer. Right? Just to check it, I'm going to look at L and L prime, and I'm going to use L and then use our formula and see if I get L prime. So L is -1, 3. L prime is going to be -1 plus 5, and then 3 plus 2. So L prime should be 4, 5. And if I look, L prime is there, L prime is there, so they are the same thing. So our answer is right 5 and up 2. Number 2, we're going to do the same thing here. I'm going to look at the first point. You don't have to use the first point, but you have to use the same point. So I could use the J's or the K's, but it doesn't really matter. I'm just going to use I. So I is -3, -1, and somehow it turns into I prime of -3, 0. So looking at my x's, I'll use a different color. -3 and -3. Well, nothing happens there. They stayed the exact same. Right? So it's not going to go left or right. Right? X is left or right, y is up or down. Here, I'll even write that down. X is left and right, y is up or down. Okay, that would be a good way to remember that. So -3 is telling me that it does not move left or right. The x stays the same. But then I look at the -1 and the 0. That means that I had to do, how could I say this? This would be like x and then y plus 1. It went up 1. So I would go up 1. And I'll circle it in orange. And there's my answer. You could, if you wanted to, plug in the J's or the K's just to double check, but I'm not going to do that. Number 3. Again, I'm going to look at the first points on both of these. I'm going to say, well, I start off with s is -4, -5, and somehow I turn into s prime, which is -2, -1. How could I go from -4 to -2, right? Starting off -4 to -2, well, I added 2. I added 2. -5 to -1, you add, what do you add? You add 4, right? If you wanted to, you could do something like -4 plus a equals -2, and you could solve for it that way. You'd get a is 2, and they would go together like right there. You could do something like that if you so choose. So let me erase those so that I can see. The x plus 2 tells me that I'm going to go right 2. The y plus 4 tells me I'm going to go up 4. And there's my answer. Number 4, again, I'm just going to look at the first point. So I'll start off with k which is -3, -4, and somehow I'm going to turn into k prime, which is 1, 0. Well, I want my little formula in here. Let me write that a little bit bigger. My little formula point. From -3 to 1, how could I get from -3 to 1? So I could say something like -3 plus a equals 1. I solve that, and a is 4. Right? So I would say, well, to get from -3 to 1, I would add 4. Right? Some people can just do that in your head. Some people would want it written down. For the y's, I look at my -4, and I can say, well, -4 plus, I'll use b this time, is going to be 0. So b is 4. So I look here in my -4. If I plug that in there, I'll get 0. Right? So this means that I go right 4 and then up 4. There's our formula. I don't know if everyone will like doing it this way here. That's the way that I learned how to do it. I think it's a lot easier just to kind of do it in our head. Whatever works best for you. Number 5. This one, the directions changed a little bit. Find the coordinates of the vertices of each figure after the given transformation. So this is basically what we did in section 1, except now we don't have a graph. We don't have to actually graph it. We have to give the points. So what I like to do whenever I have these is I first write my little formula point. 2 left and 2 down means that x is going to go left 2, so -2. Oops. And then y is going to go down 2, so -2 again. So what I normally do, to make my work nice and pretty, I write my first point down, which is h in this time, and then I'm going to say, well, and then it turns into h prime, and I'm going to plug into my formula point. So it'll be -3 minus 2, and then 1 minus 2. And then I simplify my last step. H prime is going to be -5, -1. Right, so I normally write down all 3 steps because I think that makes it a little bit prettier and what makes my work easy to follow. So that's the way that I suggest you do it. G starts off at -2, 4. G prime is going to be at -2 minus 2, and then 4 minus 2. And then G prime, after I simplify, will be -4, 2. There we are. F starts off at -1, 3. F prime, I'm going to take my x, and then I'm plugging it into there. So it'll be -1 minus 2. And then my 3, and then y minus 2. So that'll be 3 minus 2. Simplifying that, my f prime will turn into, what is that, -3, 1? Yep. Lastly, part E, or point E, is at 0, 1. E prime, I plug it into my formula point, will be 0 minus 2, 1 minus 2. So E prime is at -2, -1. And this right there is my real answer. Number 6. Starting off, I write down my formula point. It says 6 left, 6 units left. So that means x is going to go left 2, that's -6. And then up 2 means that y is going to add 2, or y plus 2. So G is 1, -2. G prime is going to be 1 minus 6, -2 plus 2. So G prime is going to be -5, 0. F is at 5, 1. So F prime, plugging into my formula point, will be 5 minus 6, 1 plus 2, which gives me, what is that, 5 minus 6 is negative 1. 1 plus 2 is 3. Lastly, I have point E, 3, negative 3. E prime will be at 3 minus 6, and then negative 3 plus 2. So E prime is, what will that be, negative 3, and then negative 1. So there we are. There are 3 points. Number 7. J is at 3, negative 5. I'm just going to write down all the points here. And I forgot to write down my formula point, so we'll do that now. My formula point will be, well, I have 6 units left, so it's going to be x minus 6, and then 3 units up, y plus 3. So it'll be just like that. So j prime, whenever I plug into my formula point, will be 3 minus 6, negative 5 plus 3. So my final j prime will be, what is that going to be, negative 3, negative 2? Yep, negative 3, negative 2. So k prime will be 1 minus 6, 0 plus 3. So k prime will be negative 5, 3. L prime will be 3 minus 6, 2 plus 3. So L prime will be negative 3, 5. M prime will be 5 minus 6, 0 plus 3, which gives me negative 1, 3. There's number 7. On to the last one. Number 8. So I'm going to translate 6 units right, so it's going to be x plus 6, and then 1 unit down will be y minus 1. So I'm going to write down all 3 of my points. Just like that. And now I'll go ahead and plug them into my formula point. So my I prime will be negative 5 plus 6, 0 minus 1, 0 minus 1. I'm just going to go ahead and do all of them right now. J prime would be negative 5 plus 6, 4 minus 1. K prime would be negative 2 plus 6, and then 0 minus 1. So going back up to the top, I'll go ahead and do the math for this. I prime will be negative 5 plus 6 is going to be 1. 0 minus 1 is negative 1. J prime, negative 5 plus 6 is going to be 1. 4 minus 1 is 3. K prime, negative 2 plus 6 is 4. 0 minus 1 is negative 1. And there we are. So I think that the back page here is very easy, but it takes a little bit of time to do it. So it would be easy to mess up there, easy to drop a negative, easy to just add 2 numbers incorrectly. So just make sure that you take your time and do well. All right, let me know if you have any questions.